Just like concrete. Still in the chairs here.
Noon.
Try it. Yeah. Either way, in any event, just sign right there.
Usually you want to see things before you sign it, but I think over here.
Afternoon and welcome to the January Cattle and Sheep and Goats Briefing. My name is Lance Honig and I serve as Chair of the Agricultural Statistics Board at NASS. This briefing is for the Secretary of Agriculture and other policymakers at USDA to better understand the content and context of today's reports. We're very pleased to have Brooke Appleton, USDA's Deputy Undersecretary for Farm Production and Conservation, joining us as Secretary Designate today. And we also welcome Dr. Justin Benavidez, USDA's Chief Economist. Before I turn things over to our presenter, I do have a few notes for our live streaming audience. The cattle report is a key statistical report. The Office of Management and Budget provides specific guidance on how this important report is to be released. OMB statistical policy instructs policymaking officials to refrain from making public comment within 30 minutes of its release. Therefore, we will not be taking questions from the public during the briefing. NASS staff are available for phone or email questions. We always strive to have everything presented at this briefing match the official record. However, should there be any discrepancy, always refer to the official published estimates. With that, I'll turn things over to Travis Averill. He is the chief of the NASS Livestock Branch. Travis.
Thank you, Lance, and good afternoon, everyone, for the January Ag Statistics Board briefing. First, I'd like to provide an overview of the January survey. Approximately 35,000 operations were surveyed this year in all 50 states. Each state sample size is provided on the map. Today's presentation. Data collection started on December 31st and finished on January 16th. Normal collection methods were used to gather the data through mail, telephone, internet, and face-to-face interviews. The primary data items asked were total inventory by class, all cattle on feed, and calf crop. So before getting into more of the data, I'd like to provide 3 snapshots of the conditions in the United States for the last 12 months, because it actually helps us to see the conditions that the farmers have endured over the last 12 months. Top left-hand corner is a snapshot of December 31st, 2024. The moderate drought was at 33% and severe drought was at 10%. And on the map, impacting more the western and central portion of the country, as well as parts of the eastern parts of the U.S. In the top right-hand corner are the conditions as of July 1st of 2025. There are less drought impacts as moderate had decreased to 18% and the severe drought at 6%. The eastern area of the U.S. had improved, though drought conditions continued from southwest Texas westward up to the Mountain West in the Pacific Northwest. At the bottom is the recent map of December 30th. The drought conditions had changed from moderate to 32% and severe drought was at 7%. Like the July map, although the expansion was mostly for states east of the Mississippi River along the Atlantic Ocean regions. So there's some revisions in this report. The U.S. all cattle and calves, all inventory and calf crop estimates for January 1 and July of 2025 were reviewed using final calf crop, official slaughter, death loss, and updated import and export data. This table provides an overview of the revisions for January 1st and July 1st, 2025. As the table has the initial estimate, current revisions, the net revision in the last column is the current estimate in today's report. This is the first iteration for both of these reference periods. January 1, all cattle and calves in 2025. The net revision is a decrease of 0.2%. Current estimate is at 86.5 million head. The 2024 calf crop, the net revision is a decrease of 0.3%, and current estimate is at 33.4 million head. For the July 1, 2025, all cattle and calves estimate, that is a net revision decrease of 0.3%. Current estimates at 93.9 million head. The 2025 calf crop, the net revision is down 0.6%, and current estimates at 32.9 million. So all cattle and calves in the US as of January 1, 2026 is at 86.2 million head, down 0.4% from the 2025 final total inventory. In the bottom left-hand corner are the top 5 states for cattle in the United States. As you can see, Texas is number 1, California is number 4. They're both unchanged from 2025 inventory. Whereas in Nebraska and Oklahoma, number 2 and number 5, they're up from previous year. And Kansas is down 1.7% from 2025 inventory. At the bottom is a chart of the US all cattle and calves for January 1 since 2006. As you can see, the current cattle cycle started in 2014 at 88.2 million head, and we're currently at 86.2 million. The previous cattle cycle started in 2004, peaked 3 years later in 2007. This is the lowest US January 1 all cattle and calves inventory since 1951. Here's a map of the United States for January 1, 2026 cattle and calves inventory with comparisons to 2025. The top number is the inventory is a unit of 1,000 head. The bottom number is the percent change from previous year's inventory. For the 50 states in the report, 16 states are increasing from previous year, and those are in blue. The darker the blue, the larger the percent changes from 2025. 23 states are decreasing from last year, and those are in red. 11 states are unchanged from last year, and those are in gray. As you can see on the map, there are 3 states where the ampersand followed the inventory number. And those are record lows in Illinois, Maine, and Massachusetts. So for cows and heifers that calved are at 37.2 million head, down 0.3% from last year. Beef cows are at 27.6 million head, down 1% from 2025. Milk cows are up 2% and they're at 9,568,000 head. In the bottom left-hand corner is the chart of the US beef cows since 2006. This is very similar to the all cattle cycle that was on a previous slide. To the right is the beef cow chart, is a chart of the US milk cows from January 1, 2006 to current. As you can see, the inventory has been between 9 million and 9.6 million over the last 20 years. All heifers 500 pounds and over are at 18 million head. That is down 0.6% from previous year. Beef replacement heifers are at 4.7 million, up 0.9% from last year. Milk replacement heifers are at 3.9 million, down 0.3% from 2025. Other heifers are down 1.5% at 9.4 million from last year. At the bottom is a chart of the US all heifers for January 1 from 2006 to present. This chart mirrors the peaks and valleys of the all cattle chart. Next are the steers, bulls, and calves. Steers 500 pounds and over at 15.6 million head, down 0.6% from 2025. Bulls are up 0.3% from last year at 2.01 million head. Calves weighing less than 500 pounds are at 13.3 million, down 0.1% from previous year. At the bottom is a chart illustrating the steers, bulls, and calves for January 1 since 2006. The blue represents the steers, and bulls are in orange, and the gray are for calves. The US calf crop, the calf crop for the first half of 2025 is 24.2 million head, down 1.6% from previous year. July to December 31st, 2025, the calf crop is at 8.7 million, down 1.4% from previous year. As a percentage of the total calf crop, the second half accounts for 26.4%, up slightly from previous years. The annual calf crop is, as I stated earlier, at 32.9 million head, down 1.6% from previous year. The 2025 calf crop is the lowest since 1941. So let's look at the trade expectations compared to NASS estimates as a percent from previous year. Trade ranges are gray, trade averages are black circles, and NASS estimates are the red squares. As you can see, all estimates shown here are within trade expectations, except the all cows and heifers that calved and the beef cows are slightly lower than trade expectations. All cattle and calves chart of ASB first estimate versus final estimates for the last 10 years. ASB first and final estimates are the blue and red line respectively. The trade ranges are illustrated in light gray. Since 2016, NASS estimate has been within trade range 6 times. So as we're talking about the cattle inventory, the next chart is all cows and heifer slaughter as a percent of total slaughter. In 2025, all cows slaughtered accounted for 17.9% of total slaughter, down from the 20.5% in 2024. Heifers slaughter accounted for 32% of total slaughter in 2025. That is up from the 31.1% previous year. So typically when cow slaughter is below 18%, it supports potential herd expansion. Though, as you can see, the heifer slaughter needs to also be down below 28%. So since we're not at 28% for the heifers, it also supports no expansion at this time. Another slide here on the impact of female slaughter as a percentage of the annual base. On an annual basis for all cattle, inventory of the following year. So the female slaughter is red, the cattle inventory of the following year is in blue. So it shows you the last time those percentages and when the herd is rebuilding is below that threshold. Next, we have the U.S. cattle on feed as of January 1 with comparisons to 2025. Feedlots with a capacity of 1,000 head or more is at 11,450,000 head, down 3.2% from previous year. As a percentage of the total cattle on feed, this group accounted for 82.7%, slightly higher than last year's total. Feedlots with a capacity of less than 1,000 head is at 2,397,000, down 4.1% from last year. As you can see on the chart below for January 1 for inventory, the inventory has ranged from as low as 12.9 in 2014 as high as 14.8 in 2008. The U.S. feeder cattle supply for January 1, 2026 with comparisons previous year. As I stated earlier, calves under 500 pounds are at 13.5 million head, and the total of steers and other heifers 500 pounds and over is at 25 million head. Feeder cattle supply is the sum of the 3 inventory components. Total supply is at 38.3 million, 0.7% below the 2025 total of 38.6 million head. As stated on a previous slide, all cattle on feed is at 13.8 million. The calculated feeder supply is at 24.5 million head, up 0.9% from the 24.3 million in 2025. The feeder cattle supply chart for January 1 has ranged from 24.3 million in 2025 to as high as 27.8 million in 2007. Next, we'll transition to the January sheep and goat survey. So here's an overview. The data collections period was a little 1 day shorter than the cattle, December 31st to January 15th. Approximately 24,500 operations were surveyed in all 50 states. Data collection was the same process, mail, telephone, internet, face-to-face interviews. The primary data items asked were total inventory by class and lamb and pig crops. So there were some revisions to the sheep portion of the survey. All sheep and lamb estimates for January 1, 2025 were reviewed using official slaughter import and export data in the relationship with new survey information prior to the survey. All sheep and lamb inventory on January 1, 2025, the net revision is down 0.5%, and the current estimate is at 5,225,000 head. There were no revisions to the lamb crop in 2024. As of January 1, 2026, all sheep and lambs in the U.S. is at 4,990,000 head, down 0.7% from 2025 total. At the bottom is a chart of the U.S. all sheep and lambs for January 1 from 2006 to 2026. To the left of the chart are the top 5 states. Texas and Colorado are up from 2025, whereas the other 3 states are down in inventory from previous year. Here's a map of the United States. Sheep and lamb inventory with comparisons 2025. The top number is inventory is 1,000 head, and the bottom number is the percent change from previous year. For the 32 published states, 10 states are increasing from previous year, and they're in blue. 20 states are decreasing from 2025, and those are in red. 2 states are unchanged from last year, and those are provided in gray. So for the January 1, breeding sheep and lambs are at 3,610,000 head, down 1.4% from last year. The replacement lambs are at 600,000 head, down 2.4% from 2025. Ewes are at 2,850,000 head, down 1% from last year. The rams are at 160,000, down 3%. At the bottom of the chart illustrating the lambs, ewes, and rams for January 1 from 2006. The blue represents the lambs, ewes are in orange, and the gray are for the rams. The U.S. lamb crop, the 2025 lamb crop was at 3,030,000 head, down 0.3% from previous year. At the bottom is a chart of the annual lamb crop from 2005 to 2025. A couple of revisions for the U.S. goats and kids. All goats and kid crop estimates for January 1, 2025 were reviewed using official slaughter, updated import and export data, and the relationships of new survey information prior to survey. For the all goats and kids on January 1, 2025, the net revision is down 0.5% from the current estimate at 2,495,000 head. For the 2024 kid crop, the net revision is a decrease of 0.3%, and the current estimate is at 1,516,000. So as of January 1, all goats and kids in the United States is at 2,509,000 head, up 0.6% from 2025 total. At the bottom is a chart of U.S. all goats and kids for January 1 from 2008 to 2026. So breakout of the goats, all kids are at 2,065,000 head, up 0.6% from 2025. The replacement kids are at 374,000, up 0.3% from last year. Those are at 1,539,000, up 0.7% from 2025. And bucks are unchanged at 152,000 head. So at the bottom is the chart illustrating the kids, does, and bucks, very similar to the sheep chart I showed a few slides ago. The blue represents the kids, the does are in orange, and the gray for the bucks. U.S. kid crop for 2025 was at 1,524,000 head, up 0.9% from 2024. At the bottom is a chart for the annual kid crop from 2007 to current. Highlight of some selected upcoming NASS reports. In addition to today's 2 reports I've covered in the briefing are agriculture prices and peanut prices report. On February 2nd, the CARE report for cotton systems, fats and oils, flour millings, and grain crushings. Crop production will be released on February 10th. February 13th is farms and land and farms. February 20th, monthly reports for cattle on feed and milk production, but those also include annual data in those 2 reports. And then on February 24th is a cold storage report. Just a friendly reminder about next month, the 102nd annual Agriculture Outlook Forum will be held February 19th and 20th at Crystal City Gateway Marriott, with the option to attend in person or virtual registration is open. All reports are available at the NASS official website. I appreciate everyone attending today's live stream session. And for those that attended here in person, thanks again. Have a great afternoon. At this moment, this concludes the live stream.